All right, everybody, we should be live for this week's episode of the Safely Extreme podcast where we discuss game design and industry topics. This is going to be for the week of September 13th, 2020. I'm, of course, Josh Blazer, and joining me as always is my co host, indie developer, Sharky. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Like you got a mention rather in another channel today.
Ooh. And which one was that for the people watching?
Uh, that was the Game Maker's Toolkit channel,
Ooh,
which has almost 1 million subs.
nice. Now, how many of those will come over here, though? That's the big question.
Probably zero with how buried your link is in that description of that,
Mm-hmm.
and no mention of you, other than game wisdom, just a game wisdom name over the clip.
Lovely.
Yep.
And let's see. I think we are live. I think we have we're getting some very weird things with these streams lately. I'm not noticing a lot of people watching, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, it is odd.
I don't know. Should I contact YouTube about it, or they're just going to say maybe you're just not popular?
Oh, YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there was a problem, they wouldn't admit to it
Mm-hmm.
or do anything about it.
But as always, for those of you new watching, we do have our Discords linked down below as well as our Twitter. So if you want to continue these discussions that we have, or just hang out and talk game design with us, be sure to join those channels.
As well as my YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
which I will be streaming to that at some point. Hashtag soon.
There we go. Blizzard soon.
I thought it was Valve soon.
I think Blizzard was the first one. I think they said soon for World of Warcraft back in the day. But we have another week, or we have another show lined up as we're going to be discussing some of the topics. And our main one this week is going to be why game developers need to play video games. And we'll be discussing that later on in the show. And for those of you watching this recorded, there'll be timestamps in the description as well for each one of our major topics. So, to get things started with, in terms of games we've been playing or things that have been interesting, I've been checking out that Star Renegades, the game from the Halcyon 6 developers. And very interesting game. I love the art of that one.
Yeah, I've been checking that one out myself, and it was really good through the first chapter, and then the second chapter left me on a sour note.
I've been hearing people complain about kind of the rogueliteness of it.
Yeah, because it seems like you're just going to have to grind in this game, and it seems like you might have to grind a lot. Get anywhere past where you could get on the first time you play it, which not a good sign.
Yeah, and that's kind of the issue with some of these roguelite games, where you're forced to replay it, as opposed to wanting to replay it, as in a roguelike.
Yeah. The thing is there's a difference between, you could have done it, but you didn't because it was insanely hard kind of thing. And here's some upgrades so you can do it, do better next run. Versus, here's some hard numbers. You're level 5. These guys are level 15. You stand no chance. It's over before it even begins. And that's kind of where this game has gone. It's like, I was really enjoying it up to that point, to the wall of impenetrability, and it's not like I even unlocked very many things when I did get my redo, even though I got a butt ton of points from what I could figure out because I destroyed every single. I did what I would consider probably a perfect run of the first, thing, and it unlocked I think 2 characters, and I don't see that being a big difference in getting me through. And it unlocked, I think, like 1 new weapon. And I see myself having to grind through that. Get myself a perfect on that first map, like 20 more times before maybe I could potentially go after the second one. And that's not good.
Yeah.
It's bad how they had me so hyped for that game, and then they just completely killed it all.
Reminds you a lot of something like Rogue Legacy, and how you are kind of forced to grind the maps in order to have enough power to really be able to make a solid push. And it surprised me how well Hades handles that. And I think part of it is that you're not really given too many direct upgrades in Hades in terms of being able to boost health. You can boost health, number of dodges you can do, but stuff like damage and things along those lines are usually conditional. Like you get increased backstab damage. So that really only applies if you're good at doing backstab to begin with. And I think it works better in terms of having that roguelike progression, but you're still very much free to focus on each individual run.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't see any problem with adding damage and more HP and stuff because, like, that just, gives you a better chance of winning kind of thing. The problem is when it's so much that they give you that there is no way you could win to begin with, especially in a turn-based game where it's not like you're not running around dodging and everything. You're just strictly pointing and clicking kind of thing. You're strategizing, and there's no strategy in overcoming stats that are
numbers can't. Yeah, there's no thinking around numbers. And that's kind of the issue that I ran into with that mobile game Arknights. That people will say, "Oh, you don't need the highest level characters to have a chance," but it's that case of you can have the best damn strategy. However, if your characters are doing 500 points less damage compared to the enemies, you're not winning no matter how brilliant of a tactician you are.
Yeah.
Ooh, let me close my door here.
The thing about Hades is they could have allowed put some power ups in there that allowed you to double your attack power, double your HP, and it would have been easier than it was now. But the fact is right now you can go through without those, and if you're good enough, you can make it all the way through.
Yep, and I think that, again, is a really big distinction. Like, when I played Undermine, for instance, which is another action roguelike, it lets you essentially upgrade every part of your character. But the better you are at, the action gameplay, the less of those you really need. Because, again, you can dodge on your own. The game's not telling you must be level 20 in order to jump over a projectile. But when you play something like Star Renegades, it's that case of, okay, your characters do, 10 points of damage, you have 100 points of health. Here's an enemy who has, 800 points of health, 50 points of armor, and he does 200 points of damage with one of his attacks. Figure out how to beat that.
And he's got attacks that are undodgeable.
Yeah, it's kind of that same issue I think a lot of people ran into with Darkest Dungeon. And kind of the final area of that, when the game just really becomes that sense of, okay, you need 4 perfectly tuned characters to match this specific dungeon. Don't do that, you're going to lose every time. And then you have to repeat all that grinding again.
Yeah.
And it seemed like with Star Renegades that there really wasn't a lot of variance, I think, built into each individual run.
Yeah, I don't. It's randomly generated or procedurally, but at least I think it is, isn't it?
It should be.
But I mean, like it, it just changes the maps potentially and
Hmm.
the where the enemy spawn kind of thing, and that's kind of it.
And
You
that
know,
doesn't create variance.
no, I mean it creates new maps and different
Hmm.
order of which you attack enemies, which considering how like a lot of the enemies in every state in every area were the same kind of thing,
Hmm.
it's like, hey, this is randomly a different instance of the exact enemy that was exactly here the last time.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a major topic in my book on roguelike design. That just having procedural generation doesn't magically make your game more playable. And you have to be very aware of what elements can be tweaked or changed. I mean, if you look at something like Monster Train, for instance, I mean, Monster Train doesn't do a lot in terms of procedural generation. You know, it shuffles what cards you get, what possible events show up. It's nowhere near as, involved from the outside, something like Star Crusaders or some of the other games we've played. But just tweaking those values, just like tweaking what events show up in Slay the Spire, add up to a lot of variance that can happen over a run.
Yeah, I mean, like coming on what you said before about the adding procedural generation, it will definitely add some,
Hmm.
variance in there. But I mean, it depends on your game and the elements that you have in there. I mean, it could add, 0.1%, or it could add 5,000,000% based off of the things you have tied into it. But it alone is not going to make much of a difference. It'll be the 0.1%. And that's not 0.1% highs, that's 0.1% lows.
Yeah. And it will probably take you a year or so to get that 0.1% if you don't do it properly.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. And I was reading a Tanya Short's book about it, about procedural generation. One of the opening lines is that procedural generation is a great way to ruin a game. If you're not careful, it will destroy a title and development scope.
Oh yeah, because like the thing is that 0.1% of variance you would gain is also, the thing is that putting procedural generation in a game
Hmm.
will add a little bit of variance. Could add a lot if you did a whole bunch of other stuff to tie it into it. But
Hmm.
the fact is by doing procedural generation itself, you're giving everybody lower quality maps because handmade
Yep.
maps are far far better than procedurally generated ones, and that's a bridge that is probably never going to be crossed, unless we get some
Yep.
killer game designer AI, procedural generation, in the future,
Yep.
maybe 200 years in the future, maybe we'll get that.
When we
But
get
by that point,
Skynet making games,
huh,
Skynet from Terminator making video games.
it's a Skynet of level design.
There we go. I mean, even like something like Spelunky. Like Spelunky is one of the poster childs for procedural generation in terms of its level designs. Even that game, unfortunately, has limitations in terms of how much variance you get into those runs. A lot of people don't notice it because of the fact that it is so action oriented. But there's not really a lot of things that change in each individual run of Spelunky.
Yeah. I think when it comes to Rogue, I think it's Light, the one that, has all the upgrades and stuff.
Hmm.
I think when it comes to games like that, you kind of can't do turn based and have it, turn out right for the most part, because if you have it turn based, then it's numbers versus numbers
Yeah.
kind of thing. And if you're strictly upgrading the numbers, then you can't really
You
there's no
can't.
skill base that's going to get you over those numbers. Not unless it's such a minor bit of numbers, you might as well not even have a roguelike to begin with.
Hmm.
So like it,
Unless.
unless they find some kind of a way to some kind of new gameplay mechanic to integrate in there to where it adds in skill based to the turn based kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe something like along the lines of did you ever play Legend of Dragoon?
Yes.
Do you remember their like combo system?
Yeah.
Where you had to time it and to get each hit kind of thing, and then
Mm-hmm.
you had like
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you were to integrate a system sort of like that into a turn-based system, something that is, a part of the turn-based system that isn't turn-based kind of thing,
Yeah.
then yeah, you could do something like that because that would be adding a skill factor. But at that point, people might not like that because it's too QTE like.
Yeah, like something like Shadow Hearts, if you remember that series I showed on the stream a few months ago, where you had the whole Destiny wheel and you had to properly, time the button presses. And yeah, I think I was thinking as like another alternative would be something like XCOM, where XCOM it is number versus numbers, but there is the whole tactical layer of what skills each character has, flanking, defensive bonuses. Like there's more you can manipulate in something like XCOM compared to something like Darkest Dungeon or Star Crusaders.
Yeah, that's because it's a tactical RPG
Yeah,
rather than just an RPG kind
yeah.
of thing. It's has a tactical element to it on top of the strategy of the combat kind of thing. So you're getting tactical and strategy together, and at which point you have more tools in your toolbox that you can possibly use to overcome a situation kind of thing.
Hmm.
Also, more tools that you can screw yourself up on. But the point
Yeah.
is I think that you have to have more tools that you can, as a skill based player, be able to go through it, as it being strictly turn based. But the fact is if it's strictly turn based and there's no extra layers kind of thing that are, you know, giving you extra skill slash tactics slash strategy to overcome the problem,
Hmm.
then it's just a problem that you can't solve kind of thing.
Yeah.
Unless again you nerf it so much that the upgrades aren't really upgrades kind of thing, and
Hmm.
then it's not
Yep.
really much of a roguelike at that point.
Hmm.
Because I mean, if you nerf it that much, then most people are going to be able to go at least halfway through, if not all the way through in the first goal, and then they're going to go through it the second time and get everything. And there's, you know, there goes all your variants. There's all your upgrades and everything. Or maybe you don't even have all the upgrades at that, even after you beat it, kind of thing, and
Yeah.
you're just done, kind of thing.
That's what with me with Undermine. That I got so good at the game that I I think I'm like still like maybe like 50% done the persistent upgrades. I don't need them. I just beat the game outright. And on one hand, that's great for me. But on the other hand, it means that all the other events that the developers may have put in to add more variants in, I'm not seeing them because I'm done the game.
Well, I think that's more of a you issue because the fact is it's good that it's possible to be able to
Yeah.
beat it without any upgrades. I think that should be a thing. But at the same time, you wouldn't have been able to do that if you went back in time to where you never played it. If you went back in time to where you never played it and then you went into it on your first time, you wouldn't be able to beat it on your first
Hmm.
all the way down. And that's kind of the way I think it should be. Is it should be hard enough that pretty much anybody on their first attempt, not knowing what they're getting into, they're not going to be able to get all the way through it.
Hmm.
Even on the second attempt, or third attempt, fifth attempt, kind of thing, they're not going to be able to do it. It's possible that they could do it, but
Hmm.
they're not going to be able to. They're not
Yeah.
going to be able to make the possible happen
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And
And I think that's where it needs to be. And the upgrades get you closer to making it happen for you, kind of thing.
hmm
Exactly, Brian. Safely extreme.
there we go.
You can beat it, but you won't.
There. Yep, and again, that goes with one of the misconceptions about roguelike design I talk about in the book, that people think a roguelike is just brutal difficulty, it's brutal on top of brutal difficulty. That's not really the case. As Shark said, it's about you learning these systems. There's a reason why people like Northern Lion, who's played so many cases of Binding of Isaac, he can beat that game relatively well, regardless of what drops, because he knows those systems inside and out. It's the same reason when you see people who are masters at like Slay the Spire, Monster Train, whatever, and they can play the game on Ascension or Covenant level max, and they will frequently win. Again, it's probably not 100%, but they'll win a lot more than a casual player.
Yeah. I mean, does that make Sekiro a roguelike?
Mm,
Difficulty on top of difficulty on top of difficulty?
no, that just makes it masochism.
That's it. Masochism.
Also,
Roguelikes are masochism.
Also, as a quick tangent for a second, for everybody watching, let me know what you think about the font and kind of the text in the YouTube chat in the middle there, because I changed it in light of having to rebuild everything. Let me know if you like that or if you want like a different font or any comments about it. But
And also the logo, the Safely Extreme logo.
Yep. But with that said, let's get to some news, because if we're not careful, we'll just turn into a roguelike discussion for the next hour. So, let's see. Anything happening? Ubisoft had their big show, and they're still trying to play down all these sexual harassment and just severe toxicity of working there.
Yep.
But they announced a Prince of Persia, what was it? A remaster, not a remake.
And that makes everything fine, right?
Just like with Doom.
Yeah. And Blizzard.
And Mojo is trapped in the past again. Mojo needs to get that time machine fixed.
Yeah. Mojo's probably not even going to hear what we're saying, so let's talk bad about him.
He'll get it in 20 minutes.
Well, he would get it in 20 minutes, but he's probably going to figure out before then and skip forward to this, to a future point where we get, and he'll have no idea all this stuff we said.
Let's see. Dave brought this up. There we go. Last night about Microsoft. I think this is a very interesting idea. They're going to have financing options for one of the Xbox models.
I think it's both of them.
Xbox S for. Oh yeah, you are right. Grab Xbox Series S or Series X, which has just some horrible naming conventions right there. But they will let you finance the consoles for either $25 a month or $35 a month, respectively. You'll get the Xbox Games Pass. You'll get that feature included. And it's a 24-month period. There will be no interest, which I think is very interesting there, no pun intended. And
those puns.
I don't know. I think that's a very smart move by Microsoft. What do you think?
Oh yeah, it's a very good idea on Microsoft's part.
I mean,
it's if you're going to buy a console kind of thing, it's pretty good for consumers,
Mm-hmm.
But like overall being good for consumers, I mean, you're better off being on a PC. But that's another topic entirely.
Yes. And then at the end of the 24-month period, it is yours to keep. So it's essentially you are
renting to own.
Yeah.
Which now that I think about it, the rent to own stores are probably very pissed about this because they did rent to own PlayStations and Xboxes and whatnot.
Yeah.
So they probably won't be renting to own Xboxes anymore, and that probably just cut out $2 or $3 grand of their income, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Well, probably $2 or $3 grand times like 5,000, or so.
Yeah.
Because the thing is they would rent out Xbox, kind of rent to own an Xbox, and they would charge like, I don't know, probably like $40, $50 a month, and you'd be paying on that for probably about
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So by the end, you paid like 2, 3, 4 grand for this, $300, $400 console.
Yeah. And this comes with a Games Pass, so you're getting all those games they put on for each month for free. So I mean, like right now, people are playing the Microsoft Flight Simulator for free, and that's a brand new, $50-$60 game.
I think isn't it 100?
Is it? Let me see.
I thought it was. I don't know.
Let's see. No, it is $60 for the base edition, but I'm sure there's no. Oh wait, deluxe edition is $120. Yeah, and they're going to sell more aircraft and such. So I mean, if you want to get people to interested in your console, I mean, saying that it's $35 a month as opposed to $400-$500 up front, that's a pretty decent way of saying it. And you get the pass. I think is what $15-$20 a month on top of that.
Yeah.
So I
But
mean,
I never did the calculations, but you're probably paying full price for that pass and the console.
mm-hmm.
I didn't the Okay, so what is the cheaper one? $22 a month?
Where is it? Just saw it. It is the cheaper console is going to be $300 total, and if you want to do the financing, it's $25 a month for 24 months. But that also includes
That's
the Game Pass.
$600, and
Yeah.
then you said the console's $300.
Mm-hmm.
So then that means you're paying $300 for your 2-year subscription, which comes down to $12.50 a month. So you're saving $2.50 off your subscription.
Yeah. But I think the idea that you're able to
Get a
pay.
console without paying all the money up front.
Yeah.
And that's very big for people who struggle to get big lump sums of money.
Yeah. So it's definitely a smart move by them, and of course now the big question is, will Nintendo and Sony follow suit with some plan of their own?
I seriously doubt Sony will. Sony's got their anti-consumer hat on, so and if they do, you can bet that it's going to be a bad deal.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo, on the other hand, they may, but Nintendo's Nintendo, so probably not.
Yeah.
Unless they figured out some kind of way to tie a clever game mechanic into payments. Like every time you make a payment, you get a new hat for Mario or something, or you're able to go left on this special controller or something, or anything like that. Like if Nintendo comes up with something like that, you can damn well believe they're going to have a payment system. But unless they do, I don't think they're going to go with the payment system.
Yeah. And I think what will be very telling is about how many people adopt either the cheaper version or the more powerful one. And I haven't looked at it, so I have no idea what's the difference between Series S and Series X and all that.
Yeah. What I'm more interested in is, Microsoft lately has been very pro-consumer.
And pro indie, they've been buying up indie studios left and right.
I wouldn't really consider that pro-indie. They've just been pro,
money,
buying some studios for them. So, but they, and they were notoriously anti-consumer for many years. So the question is this just because they're losing right now and they're going to go back to anti-consumer when they come back, or is this actually a change of heart for them kind of thing?
I mean, they are teaming up with Epic on the whole, Apple, Epic, Google, Microsoft, Galactic's lawsuit going on.
Yeah, but they have ulterior motives just like
Yeah.
Epic does because they were trying to do something very similar to Epic, and they got shut down by Apple.
Yeah. And again, that will the fallout of that will probably be like the big thing from the game industry. I think this year, if we get a response this year, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we will. I think we'll
Yeah.
get, well, I think we'll get plenty of updates, but I don't think it'll go to, a judgment this year kind of thing. I don't, it may not even be next year.
Yeah.
This may be tied up in court for 3 years kind of thing.
Litigation is very slow, people.
Very, very.
All right, but
Hopefully it's not no 3 years. Hopefully
mhm.
at least by mid next year. Hopefully by at
Yeah.
least that we'll have a judgment in our in the good side here.
Mhm.
Which a good side is ironically Epic and Microsoft, which is the last thing I ever expected to say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Now
of
I'm
course,
just waiting for Shark to.
The bad side is Apple, which is something I definitely expected to say.
I'm just waiting for Shark to talk about how much he loves the Epic Games Store. He's gonna be playing Fortnite every night.
I'll be the next ninja since
There
you
you go.
can't become the next ninja.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. With that, let's get to some weird games. 'Cause we got a very interesting list this week. This time, without even realizing at the start, Shark and I almost picked the exact same games.
Oh yeah, actually, we did pick the exact same games. Just he eliminated several of them that I picked, and I eliminated several that he picked. And if you take the list of the ones that neither one of us, that we both didn't pick, I think that was a list of like two. One for me, one I didn't pick, and one he didn't pick.
And I just realized I need to throw up the chat. 1 second. Let's put that right here.
Don't throw up all over the stream.
Uh-uh. All right, there we go.
You need to resize it without distorting it.
All right. I think that should be good for right now.
Wrong way. There you go.
All right. So this is the first game that popped up, and I don't know. This looks like a game we may have played before, wouldn't you say?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever played a game that looks, or even heard of a game that looks remotely like that, or Cuphead, or anything.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, we missed the first one too. Biscuits 2. It's a punishing jumping game. So is it a platformer? I mean, you're jumping from platform to platform.
Well, I don't like that the very first word describing the game is punishing because that sounds like a horrible game.
Also, is it me or is there like a haze in these screenshots? Like, it doesn't feel like it's like hard to focus on like the main character.
Yeah. That's they're playing a effect. I don't know what the effect is called, but basically I intend on using some of that in Project Try It kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
basically they're playing an effect where they take the red that how like your part of your character is made out of red, blue,
Mm-hmm.
and green kind of thing. They're basically taking all three of those layers and kind of shifting. There's some art out there where you can see that kind of thing where you can see like the three that are kind of shifted and they're just overlaying
Mm-hmm.
each other. Just but this is just a slight shift on it.
Also, I want to say something. That in this first screenshot here, kind of like the spooky background, I think that's a background from Cuphead or very similar. Like the train boss fight. I'll need to look that up again. And of course, the publisher is Indie Games Publisher.
Yeah. Is that safely extreme or is that safely safe?
I think it's safely safe. All right,
And
so
if you look at all the screenshots, they all look like they're from the exact same map.
yeah,
So is
so
this a game with only one map?
maybe. And speaking about one map, now we're going to the sixth dimension,
Oh,
which
they passed you. You
eh,
specialize in the fifth dimension.
I like. It's a first-person single-player riddle and puzzle-solving game. Again, I'm noticing a lot of indie developers are just trying to create new genres, but they're just calling them like old. They're just trying to create new names for old genres. This is
Yeah,
a first-person gun shooting game.
I've never heard of creating new names for old genres like RPGs kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They were named RPGs way back in the day. Final Fantasy, all that stuff. They were RPGs long before Skyrim and all those came out. But somebody
Mm-hmm.
started calling them JRPGs for some reason.
Mm-hmm. And Metroidvanias.
Yeah, they're trying to rename those, and that never caused any problems with RPGs.
Oh, or roguelikes. Everyone knows they accept the term of roguelikes, right?
Yeah.
Also, I am not seeing any kind of puzzles or riddles in these screenshots.
You're not? I'm seeing plenty of puzzles. Like, what is that thing that your flashlight is pointing at in like every screenshot? That's a riddle.
Is that a suitcase in the water over there?
I think so.
There's a riddle.
An asset.
It's a case of the missing assets. Let's see. So this is one that I picked up. Strike Buster Prototype. By the fact that I have no idea what they're going for with all these systems. It's a special version of the traditional STG game. Again, I don't know anyone who called it the shooting game.
I mean, it is a shooting game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a CCG is a collectible card game.
Mm-hmm.
Platformer game is a platformer game.
I love this description right here. Collect relics make you go from strength to strength. Oh, and there's roguelite elements too. Oh, and a lottery system.
Exactly foreign.
Mm-hmm. Wait, the game will continue to update content. Is the game self-learning? Is it self-aware?
It's self-aware.
There you go. The developer's not going to make more content. The game is going to do it.
It's Terminator all over again.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to put in a key for it and see if the game will get in touch with me.
You mean the game?
Yeah.
If the game will get in touch with you?
So this one gets on the list just by the name of it. 12 Bananas. And this is just an amazing screenshot right here. What did you say?
Yeah. I'm missing, 10 bananas there.
You like the description or the UI box for bananas? That is well integrated in.
Oh, yeah. I see it now. Yeah, that is excellent.
That is a haunting banana. Wait, is this an orange coming out of the lava? Is that...
Probably. Aren't you glad about that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a banana in your pocket?
Ooh, I like this screenshot right here. Wait, you should win then. There's 12 bananas.
Maybe he did win.
Puzzly Mimi platformer.
Would have never guessed that.
Experience the satisfaction of finding each hidden banana.
Sounds satisfying.
Unlock Steamworks achievements.
I mean, like, you could have a game without Teamworks achievements.
Mm-hmm. So this is one of those games that both Shark and I, we really both like clued in just with some of these thumbnails. Here's Vin Diesel in this game.
I'm sure they got the rights to that.
Here's a looks like a shadow doll. Looks like everybody's T-posing for some reason. This doesn't look like an acid flip, does it?
No, that's the guy's. That's the developer's image in the game, probably.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an asset, or maybe it is an asset. He's an asset to the world.
And this description seems to go all over the place. Grounded is a survival horror game in which you have to sneak around the house and smoke 6 times without getting caught by your mom. Okay? If your mom ever touches you, she kills you. Okay, well now it's a horror game. And she only moves when you're not looking at her. So she's Slender Man.
Or one of those weeping angels.
Yeah.
It's weeping mom.
There we go.
She's weeping because you're smoking weed.
And I like how in the description there's a hint about if you're soft locked. That's always good.
Oh yeah.
Okay, this next one, Live the Life. Let me scroll back up here. And I guess this is basically real life Sims.
Are you sure it's not just a photo book of somebody, who
Maybe.
took pictures?
Ooh, in first person view, you are completely immersed in a fascinating game world. Wait, I'm sorry. Usual actions are felt in a new way? What the hell does that mean?
Expect the unexpected.
Is that safely extreme?
I think it's extremely safe, is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's safely extreme.
It sounds like there's somebody who just discovered a first-person camera and is completely in awe about it.
Yeah, it does.
It's hard not to understand the benefits of first-person vision. You have to feel it for yourself. We've never played a first-person game before.
I've never played a first-person game either.
Oh, man.
It's like, you could put the camera first person. You know what you can do like that? I mean, like, you can do all these usual things, and it's unusual. You can walk through hallways. You can sit down. You can move items from one place to another.
And I like the final description here. I also have something else I can definitely surprise you with, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. This is really a visual novel game.
I think a visual novel might be better.
Alright, so this game doesn't look too bad, at least in terms of pixel art. But
I disagree with that.
What the hell is that?
I think it looks very generic and plain.
Yeah. But it gets on my list because of the game features.
Because
it has.
Of a platformer?
Yeah. No, it has a shop. It has boss. It has pixel art. It has complexity. It has 30 levels, and then it has... He left that one bullet point. The game could have anything in it. It could be a visual novel, open world, space sim, MMO, RPG.
Yeah. I would have never guessed that it had pixel art.
No.
Or a boss.
The boss right here.
I definitely would have never guessed that it has complexity.
Mm-hmm. Ugh. And why... Though, I'm not sure why they use hearts as the health here. It feels like this would be better suited for just like a heart, normal hearts instead of realistic looking hearts.
Maybe they wanted to be different.
And is that a cookie coming out of this guy's ear right here?
Either that or a potato. Cookie or potato. Comment in the comments and in chat.
It needs 2 gigabytes of RAM. Damn, I didn't even notice that. So this game actually looks like there's potential here. It's not Haku, unfortunately.
This is our first, potential non-red flag simulator.
Mm-hmm. It kind of looks like a Mark of the Ninja to me a little bit.
It needs more Haku in it, though.
Mm-hmm. Responsive controls. Use an energy hook. Ooh, it's hyper immersive environments.
Hyper.
Mm-hmm. I think this one could have some potential. The art looks very well done in this. Not the most highly detailed, but it has style.
Well, you don't want highly detailed pixel art.
Yeah.
That's the way you. That's what I did in my last game, and it looked like crap because of that.
So this next game, Cyber Protocol. First, I picked because it's cyberpunk, and the second thing is that I have no idea what this game is.
The reason why I picked it was because it was cyberpunk related, not cyberpunk, but and because it was a good example of, I think, minimalistic graphics that look good, kind of thing. Like, a lot of people can pull this off really easily if they just thought to pull it off.
Yeah, it's very clean. My voice is dying. Ooh. But my problem with this game is that looking at these screenshots in the description, I don't know what this puzzle game is.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Looking for more adrenaline?
Maybe like a maze Pac-Man-like game.
That's what I was thinking. Ooh, it has synthwave and 8-bit soundtracks. Oh, and 100 puzzles. Here's some more. There's some art, I guess.
They definitely need to, tell the players better of what the actual gameplay is like.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so this next one...
And they did take out a lot. No, they just have a minimalistic UI.
Mm-hmm. This one I picked because it looked interesting, but again, it's one of those games that I'm not quite sure what it is. Is this a puzzle game? Is it just like an action-adventure title? Something about butterfly?
Maybe they sting like a bee.
Looks like you're manipulating light and dark for the pulse. So I'm assuming different things occupy in the light side versus the dark side. Now, one thing that is kind of a red flag, this looks like it's going to be very eye-straining to play this, considering kind of the very haze and darkness that's going on.
Yeah, that's the issue with 1-bit games. Technically, it's not 1-bit; it's monotone, is what it is.
I mean, it could be interesting. Oh wait, here's some actual color. Yeah, I mean, I've played a few games where whether it's a haze or a camera shake or something, it just makes it very hard on your eyes. If you remember that game I played, I think Post-Void, it was like that first-person shooter, nightmare vision game that was giving everybody a headache from after a minute of playing it.
Oh, you mean the one that gave me a headache after about 2 seconds?
Yeah. Alright, so this game, I'm picking this one because this is definitely not, again, how you market or release a game. So they're trying to parody Escape from TARDIS. I think that's the Battle Royale game. And I love these descriptions.
Tetris.
Oh, they got double there. And I like how it was made from a development team who made 0 projects. Please do not buy our game. Yeah, remember, when you announce Project Triad, you should just tell everyone, don't buy my game.
Yeah. I've already told everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I've already told everybody.
Good. A classic puzzle game inspired by many shooters.
There's one instance where telling people not to buy your game is perfectly relevant.
Mm-hmm.
When it's a game that's free.
Yeah.
That's the only time. If you're not giving away the game, don't tell them not to buy your game.
Mm-hmm.
If it's freeware or free to play or whatever, then you can tell them no to buy your game. But otherwise, do not tell them that.
Mm-hmm. So this first game from Shark, Tiny Crack. Did you pick this one because it involves breaking the game?
Well, I mean, it's technically like my 8th game or so. That they were all mixed into yours.
In a world of confusion, you start by selecting one of 2 characters. Good.
I picked this one because it was one of the least red flag bearing games that looked like it maybe might have some potential. Why I picked it. Tried not to get all duds. But, it has its issues.
Mm-hmm. So this is A Rabbit and the Mystic Fog. Which I'm assuming this is an adventure game. Is a trip through nature's beauty. Okay.
Yeah, I picked this one because I'm waiting for the shark to appear in it.
The loveliness of your former home was tainted, though, okay, and the only companion you have left is the rabbit. It sounds like a very amazing story.
Yeah, though it will.
Help the bear receiving his fish and fulfilling the rabbit's desire for explosions. That's a sentence.
The rabbit is the only one left, but you're supposed to help the bear. It's like,
Wait, what happened? When's the shark show up? Is the shark DLC?
You said earlier that the rabbit's the only one left.
Where's the bear coming?
You got to help the bear. Is the bear also the rabbit?
I don't know.
The bear is the rabbit. It's a bear. It's a bear bit.
There we go.
Or it's a rabbit.
Alright, so this is BPM bullets per minute. And it looks like somebody really liked the color red.
I think they liked orange better.
Yeah. BPM all your actions. Oh, good, you're tied to the music.
Yeah, it sounds like a game for Josh right there.
Mm-hmm. Defeat 7 bosses to reach the final boss. So there's 8 bosses. Oop, it's randomly generated.
Yeah, that'll add 0.1% replayability.
Mm-hmm. Alright, I will try it. See if we get it.
Of course you will.
Mm-hmm. Alright, now we turn to this one that I don't know what to say about this. It's Minesweeper, but enhanced. Which I guess that means it has loot boxes.
Well, they have different maps where like the playing field, instead of being a square, is like the shape of a sword. Ooh. Or the shape of whatever the heck that is.
And look, it has 1,350 levels. We'll play through all of them, right?
I mean, in a game like this, that might actually not be bad.
30 pets. Apparently there's Pokemon involved. Coins, quests. Wait, did you see that line about tutorial? The tutorial's effectivity is proven by the players. What does that mean?
Well, see, for you to figure out if there's a tutorial or not, you have to go to another player, right, and have them prove that there is actually a tutorial in the game, so that you'd be like, oh yeah, I already did that, and you know that at that point the tutorial has been proven to you.
Maybe the tutorial is just the friends we make along the way.
Exactly.
And I wonder why Shark picked this one. This game is trash.
Because this game is trash, you know. Mm-hmm. let's move on.
There we go. Pathmaker. So this sounds like almost like a riff off of Mario Maker. I guess Mario Maker as a puzzle game.
Yeah, Mario Maker is a puzzle slash basic crappy art simulator.
Yeah. And again, this game doesn't seem like it has an aesthetic to it. It just seems like very basic pixel art.
Oh, it has an aesthetic. It's like the 5-year-old aesthetic.
Hmm.
You know, if a 5-year-old can draw it, that's the aesthetic.
Alright, so this one, I think Shark just picked this one because it had TCG in the title, along with, I think that's Japanese.
Yeah, both things I'm into.
I gotta say, the card art doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, it looks pretty good kind of thing, but like,
We can't read any of it, unfortunately.
I mean, we might be able to eventually when they do a port, hopefully. Translation.
Yeah, so could be good. We just have no idea.
You should request a key.
But what was all in Japanese? How am I going to learn the game?
Well, you have to learn Japanese.
Oh no. Alright, we'll see. I've been getting too many keys lately. I wonder if developers are knowing about these shows. And then, last but not least, we have a game. Wait, did we play this one? I think we may have. Yeah. This was during one of the summer festivals. Based off a popular French author comic. Yeah, I'm remembering this one. But yeah, like this is a name that is
the feeling of deja vu quickly arising.
But yeah, this is a name that is not going to work for a search algorithm. The dungeon
can spell not
exactly. Yeah, I remember this one being a little bit annoying to play. Well, I'm going to put in for it. We'll see.
Because you like the annoyance.
Yeah, the masochism. But with that, let's get back over here and let's talk about our topic. We'll see how long this goes for. If it does end up short, we may ask for like a second mini topic. But for this week, we are talking about why you need to play video games as a game developer. And I got a compliment from Shark over my thumbnail, which I think this may be like the most clickbaity thing I've done so far. But this came up because I was watching, I'm on Twitter, obviously, and I get a lot of tweets from developers, and I see them. And somebody made a tweet about a Reddit post they made where they said that reasons why I don't play video games as a game developer. And I didn't read it because just that title alone kind of sent me into a tailspin there. And
red flag. They must be only putting games out on itch.io.
Maybe. And it brought up this topic, and this is kind of a segue of our roundtable discussion. We talked about learning game design. But from a game developer standpoint, you need to be able to play the game. You need to play video games. And this seems like one of those no-brainer kind of topics, but it's something that I hear, or it's one of those things I hear a lot of developers will sometimes say, like the starting out or very artistic ones. I don't have time to play video games. Why should I play them? I mean, Shark, I know you don't play any tactical strategy games or CCGs or deck builders, right?
No. Playing games is a complete waste of time. I would never ever play a game, and because they're just complete waste of time. See, my goal is to make games so I can waste other people's time, and that's my goal, is just to waste other people's times. That is my goal.
There we go. Make sure to put that on the marketing page for Project Triad.
Yeah, I'll do that.
That should be the
But
first image in the trailer that you put out. My games are just there to waste people's times.
yeah,
Quote
exactly.
Sharky.
But seriously, you know, not only do you got to play games for many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to get rid of some of the lesser and at the same time more important ones off the beginning that are
Mm-hmm.
easier to explain. You need to play games because you need time off from your job making games. So you need to have time off and you need to enjoy your time off. And if you don't enjoy playing games, you shouldn't be making them to begin with because
Yeah.
you have no clue what you're doing if you don't enjoy games. So you need to go and enjoy some games in your time off. And sadly, I'm so busy that there's not a whole lot of time for that. But like I cherish every bit of it I get to get, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the next reason is research. You need to do research. If you're making a tactical RPG, you need to go out and play tons of tactical RPG games because you need to research, see what they did, see what they got wrong, see what they got right. You need to see all these things so that you can use that for inspiration and I'm not going to do the same bad thing they did because I don't want to screw up my own game, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So it's ideas of what to do and what not to do and what red flags you want to avoid, kind of thing.
Yeah. And Shark actually beat me to the punch because that was the point that I was going to bring up. That we have both played and seen so many indie games over the last 10 years. And you can tell the difference between somebody who does and does not. Uh, does not get the idea of what that game is and what makes it work. And I see this a lot from the modern retro market. That, wait, maybe he's building AIs to play games.
And
But
actually, that's not a far out comment because like a lot of game developers, a lot of the bigger indies kind of thing, they do, some of them do actually build AIs to play their game
mm-hmm.
just to get, find a lot of the obvious flaws and everything to
uh,
fix them before they go into the real testing
yep,
with human players.
Crow Team did just after the Talos Principle. They designed an AI to go through their puzzles and figure out all the possible solutions and figure out whether or not a puzzle was solvable or not.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then back to the point about modern retro games, I have played plenty of these games that are worse than the games that were made 30 years ago. And like I said, if I am playing your version of Mario and it's worse than the original Mario, why should I give your game the time of day in that case?
Well, you got to give it at least enough time to click the refund button.
Yeah. And again, you can tell when somebody knows what they're talking about. In this case, what they're designing. Like when I think about kind of like top tier in like the modern retro field, I think of developers like Locomelito, Joy Mashers, Yacht Club Games. And when I spoke to Yacht Club, they know about these classic games because they grew up playing them. They studied them in terms of what worked and what didn't work. And that, of course, means playing them. And I mean, Locomelito, I mean, his whole thing is being inspired by classic games and then doing his own take on them. And you can't do that, or you can't do it well, without playing those games in the first place.
Yeah, I know when I, started working on Project Triad and everything, I did tons of research into CCGs, I played a lot more Hearthstone than I wanted to play, which was any of it. And, found out why it's very pay to win and their balance, and a lot of that actually revolves around their mana system kind of thing. Because when you have just the static, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cost kind of thing, then when you have something that's 4 attack and draw 1 card, and you have something that's 4 attack and draw 2 cards, they're both 4 mana kind of thing. Where your 5 attack, draw 1 card and draw 2 cards, is both 5 mana. So it's like, yeah, I want the 2 card draw version of those cards kind of thing. Where like Magic the Gathering can do something like that, and they can get away with it because of the fact is it's not just strictly 4 mana for this card. This one is 4 any colored mana kind of thing, and it's draw 1 card, 4 attack kind of thing, 4 defense in the case of Magic, and then for the 4 attack, 4 defense, draw 2 cards kind of thing. It's 3 of any color mana and 1 of a specific color mana, like green kind of thing. So, that you have to have at least 1 green mana, 1 specific green mana to do that. So when they require specific colors kind of thing, especially when they combo more than 1 different color, or when they put a lot of different specific colors, like a card that only costs 3 mana, but it's 3 of the trees, 3 forest mana, that card is, for some decks, a lot harder to play than a 6 mana card. For other decks, like a soul, a solo green deck, that's as easy as playing a 3 of any, kind of thing, because it's the same thing for them, because that's the only thing. But I delved into Hearthstone more than I would like to play, and I played a ton of Magic the Gathering. I did definitely enjoy that one though. Yeah. I looked into games like Netrunner, which we talked about today in your Discord kind of thing. We I didn't play it, but actually I think I did play it just a little bit. There was several other games I looked into, and not only did I look into those, got the card game side of things, but I looked into I looked into everything Cyberpunk, and I watched, I don't know, 20 or 30 different animes on Cyberpunk, probably about 100 plus movies on Cyberpunk kind of thing, and I learned that through all that the Cyberpunk genre isn't even defined. You can look in pretty much any other genre kind of thing, and you can see these 5, 6 things. You have to have at least 5 5 of these 6 things in your thing to be considered this genre kind of thing. Where in Cyberpunk, it's like, yeah, it's like these 12 things are used a lot, but there is no game, no Cyberpunk example that uses any one of them 100% of the time. There's not even one that crosses all of them. There's not one single thing that crosses all of them. There's not even one thing that even happens in probably more than 60% of the media kind of thing. Like the highest percentage you find one of these 12 things is like maybe 50% kind of thing. It's like half of the Cyberpunk stuff will have this element kind of thing.
Yeah,
but that is like it's very undefined in everything. I meant the closest thing to being defined, ironically, is neons. Because probably about 60% of the Cyberpunk stuff has neons in it. That is probably the closest thing to being defined. Hence why Project Triad got named Neon Continuum and has a heavy focus on neons, because that is the most defined element of Cyberpunk kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, we're implementing, I'm implementing a lot of the other things kind of thing, the things that I think should define the genre. And, if Project Triad, potentially becomes a, monolithic kind of game, you know, potentially I'll be credited for defining what
Yeah.
Cyberpunk is.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at a future prodigy here potentially.
There we go. And there's something that I also want to bring up about this topic. When it comes to playing classic games, because I've gone into arguments with developers on Twitter about this. As you guys know by now, I am definitely pro emulation when it comes to classic games. That if there is no legal way to be able to play this game and provide developers with money, if emulation is the only way to do it, then I am all for that. And a developer called me out on Twitter saying, "Oh, you just want these games so you can play them." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the point. I want these games available so that you can play them." And again, the reason is that there is only so much that you can glean from watching somebody play your game or watching somebody play a game. It's hard to spot playability and onboarding issues if you're watching a master level player of something. Now, of course, you can learn from them. There's a reason why Let's Plays are so popular about teaching new players. But that's not the same as being able to learn the design or figure it out through playing it.
Yeah. And, I'm particularly skilled in that. And, I can't even get it. I can get a lot of it, but I can't get all of it kind of thing. And, I'm one of the most skilled the most skilled people at that. I know, kind of thing. And, not saying that, other developers aren't skilled, but, that is a particular skill that I seem to excel at higher than a majority. And,
Mm-hmm.
Even at that, like, I completely agree with Josh that, I mean, that's a good way to do like some of the stuff, kind of thing. It's a good start kind of thing, but you can't depend on only that, but you also ain't got time to play every game that's out there
Yeah.
or the money to play every game that's out there. But like if you can play like a lot of games and then watch a few that you don't have kind of thing, you'll be able to glean a lot more from that watch kind of thing.
Yeah. You have, I think we've said this before, you have to understand the rules before you can break them yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
too often we see developers not getting those rules, making so many mistakes in terms of their design, and then wondering, well, I just made my game like Mario, why isn't anybody buying my game? Or I'm making the next XCOM or SimCity or whatever. And again, like I play these games and the onboarding, the UI, the playability is either worse than those games or made no attempt to improve on them at all.
Yeah. You always have to make your game either better than other instances or different than other instances. Because
Yep,
if it's the same and equal or same and worse, there's no reason to play your game because there's
exactly.
something that is the same and equal or something that's the same and better than yours that is a classic that everybody knows about. There's just
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows about yours.
Yep.
So, that's never an answer, and just being, better, the same but better, or the same but different kind of thing, is not necessarily enough either kind of thing. That's a start. That's a bare minimum kind of
Yep.
thing. That's a you know that's the bridge of if your cargo is above like 18 foot, you're not going to fit underneath this bridge kind of thing, and you're going to get the stuff knocked off,
Mm-hmm.
and But by the time you get to the end of it, into that road, you're going to have to fit into this pinhole kind of thing. And if your game is not built to fit into that pinhole, you ain't going to fit.
It's the bare minimum. It's the lowest common denominator that your game should be equal to, a popular game. That's not even part of your development process. That's not a goal at all. And unfortunately, we see some developers make that their goal. I just want to remake Mario. I just want to remake Final Fantasy. Well, do you want to do anything else? No, that's just it. And that does not work. And when it comes to being able to play these games, again, and reason why I use like our tangent from our roundtable discussion is that the only way you're going to be able to learn design is that you have to play them. And this sounds again so mind shattering, right? I'm blowing minds here, telling people you have to play video games to learn how to make them. But
it's like a mind grenade.
Yeah,
gone off.
But you have to be able to understand what makes these games work. And the only way you can improve your knowledge is by doing this. And like for myself, there's a reason why people like me, like Charlotte, we are so good at analyzing design. Is because we talk about it on a regular basis and we examine these games more than just saying, is it fun or not? And people will ask me questions about design, and they'll be like saying something like, I don't know how to put this into words. And I will pick this up immediately because my brain is wired to that design talk. And the only way it got to that point was being able to examine these games. And again, this is going to make me sound very much full of myself, but there's a reason why people keep asking me, why don't you teach a course? Or, you should become a teacher of game design. Because it is so much tuned into my thought process. And that wouldn't have happened without playing games. But, again, before anyone says anything, it's about being able to play games at that analytical level. Like we've said many times before, just sitting and playing Fortnite for 8 hours a day doesn't make you a game design master, or Call of Duty, or Madden, or Mario. You have to be able to understand what's going on behind the scenes of these games.
Mm-hmm. And you have to be able to break down the mechanics.
Yep.
And everything that's in there. You realize you look closer at the numbers. You realize that like min-maxing is like when you get good at min-maxing kind of thing,
mm-hmm.
that is like the start of breaking down mechanics kind of thing.
Yeah,
because you're breaking down the mechanics to a slight degree to the point of where that if you go minimum in this stat and
mm-hmm.
maximum on this stat, you're going to do better. And then you're breaking down the further mechanics to which way you can best achieve that minimum and that maximum kind of thing,
mm-hmm.
based off of that. And that is where you start at. That's the start of dissecting, and then you go so much farther deep into it to where you figure out how each art piece is made, what kind of effects they use it, like the what was it, the star something playing the other night,
Star Crusaders.
Yeah, Star Crusaders.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I looked at that, I could it took me a little bit to figure it out, but when I looked at it, I figured
mm-hmm.
out that it's a 3D background, it's a flat 3D terrain kind of thing, just flat. And then every, little mountain or anything on there, every character is pixel art and it's sticking up on like a billboard, kind of like a little sign that you hold up with a stick behind it. And basically all of them are mounted on those sticks kind of thing. And they turn and whatnot at certain ratios kind of thing, depending on where you're moving kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time is they're placed, statically, in the ground of the 3D ground, put in there. And then the developers added a, field of view kind of thing to it. to where like after it reaches a certain point on the flat 3D ground, everything from there back gets like this hazy, filter put over it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you cross the next point, there's a second layer of the hazy filter, or like just a stronger version of it. And like as you get farther up, there's a different filter, closer to the camera kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And with those things rotating, but being, stuck in place kind of thing, and the filters, of course, changing as you move on the screen, because as you move, some get farther up, some get closer in. It provides this effect that just looks crazy amazing kind of thing.
Yeah. And again, if I didn't play that game, or if Shark didn't play that game, he would never know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because it reminds me again of when I played Chromasia on stream. I'm saying the game of the day this time. It's a rare occurrence here. But when I played Chromasia, Shark was just taking notes left and right as I was playing that game. Because he had the opportunity to have somebody who understands design onboarding, take a deep look at that title. And it is rare for developers to find people like that. It's not like you can go to a casual friend and they'll talk to you like, "Hey, the aesthetics of your game properly define the onboarding process of how symbolism work." If your friend says that to you, there may be something going on there. They could be an alien. But
Josh says the alien confirmed.
Mm-hmm. But the point is that you have to be able to understand how these systems work in order to properly implement them yourselves. And again, and to build off of that, sometimes you can play a game and discover something you never thought was possible. This is why I've taken to playing so many indie games, and why Jack called me a mechanics vampire on the stream. Is that I examine these games because I want to see something new. I don't want to just play the 50th version of Mario or the 80th Call of Duty. It's why I loved Ultra Kill so much, because it's such a different take on first-person shooter design. Just as Disco Elysium is such an elevated take on kind of the choose-your-own novel or choose-your-own adventure kind of gameplay. And
yeah, I would rather refer to you as the mechanics masochist.
There we go. Masochistic vampire. But the point is that if you want to be able to understand and grow your appreciation of design, you have to see what's out there. And we've joked about this before about, the shut-in game developer who doesn't play any video games, doesn't visit any message boards. All they do is just design their game for 8 to 10 years, in a vacuum. And then they wonder why, nobody's playing this game, or why nobody likes this. Or my favorite, when people do play and they complain and they say, "Oh, it's your fault that you don't understand my game."
Oh yeah. And I talked about this before about, kind of playing the devil advocates about the players may not be actually playing your game right.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is they aren't, if they're not playing right, they're not playing right because you failed them as a developer kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do something in order to communicate better how they're supposed to be playing kind of thing. You need to tell, you need to, put, specific things in place that shape their play in such a way that they play the way that you intended to, because the reason why you want to play that way is because that's the best experience. Why, why
Mm-hmm.
would, like in my particular case, it was, I wanted them to, die at this map, without, because I didn't want to put a forced ending kind of thing right there. I didn't want to force, make it where it's a completely unwinnable fight and just give them unlimited HP kind of thing. I wanted them to be able to go through it, and if they wanted to, they could go through it kind of thing that way without, getting a game over there. but I wanted them to, 100% on the first time when they didn't know the game, to 100% die right there, and then go back. And what I found is they would get there and they would either quit out the game, choose not to save, go back and grind, kind of thing, all kinds of different things to avoid that losing that battle there.
Mm-hmm.
And the grind, and the grinding their way through, and that's not a good experience. That's not a good experience. So they were playing it wrong, but it was because I had failed them in putting in methods and ways to have them play in the way that is best for them, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like what I did is when they quit a battle, that just goes to the game over screen. That gets them that ending, kind of thing. When they when they choose, they can choose whether to save or not. It automatically goes from there right into the new game plus, so that they don't get it, they don't get kicked back out to the title screen to load, kind of thing. They can still exit out and load. So I mean, that's still not even done, kind of thing. And that's one thing I'm going to be fixing in the remake, by putting in auto saving and saving, like redoing the save system and how that worked, kind of thing. Because like there's no punishment mechanics, so there's no reason to, and you can go back to any stage and play it. So there's no reason to need to save to other things, other files than just that one. I mean, we'll probably leave the option to do, to make multiple save files, because some people will want to, but like there's no reason for that in my particular game. So taking that out by default and allowing that as an option for them to save it like that, that's what I intend on the future, to truly block that out, kind of thing. Because they with the autosave and everything, it'll make sure that people get the endings that they've earned, as well as make sure that people don't do unneeded grinding to go to the other way. Because the intent behind allowing them the potential to go through it that way is because some people like grinding. And I thought about it and I was like, maybe there's a no ending challenge kind of thing where they go all the way to the end of the base game without getting the ending, kind of thing. It's like I could put achievement around that, but that's so like niche. That's probably not a good idea, but like I thought about it and I was like, people might want to do this as a challenge, and we'll let them do it as a challenge. There won't be no achievement or anything for it, but it's an option if people want to take the masochistic grinding way.
There we go. And going back to what Shark said a few minutes ago about trying to understand, or one of the reasons why you play these games is to start to, I forget, I think I lost my train of thought there. What was it? Design, mechanics. See, maybe it'll come to me as maybe if I talk it out, it will come to me. But when you are playing these games and you're trying to figure them out, one of the big things is that you have to be able to understand what this game did right and what it did wrong. And again, one of the things that I see from a lot of developers, and I think this was kind of my point, that there are a lot, and we've said this before, of first-time or beginner's mistakes we see designers make. No volume sliders, no key rebindings, a very basic game menu. And someone was asking me on Twitter about why are key rebindings such an important part about game design? Because it is an important point about onboarding. It's about doing something that is for the consumer. It's not something that they are readily or immediately going to get, and it's something you have to be able to show to them. And this is one of the reasons why it's such a big thing to play not just good games, but to play bad games as well. Because you
Yeah,
need
like
to.
Hearthstone.
Yeah. Oh, great. Now Blizzard's going to come after us. But you need to understand just as much about what makes a game work as just what makes a game doesn't work. And this is why it's important to understand and learn design. Because if all you do is just play Nintendo games, for instance, yes, you're going to understand why these games work so well, but you're not going to get why the lesser examples don't. And this is how you fall into that trap of having these issues and kind of ruining your game without even realizing that you're making them in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And, this is kind of a tangent from this topic, but I think it's still relevant enough to mention it and not, go in depth in it. But not only do you need to play games and everything, you need to watch people play your game and break down what, you can't. I mean, you can play your own game, but you already know your own game in such depth. You're going to glean some things from it, but not all the things you need to. Which some of the things you need, you can sadly only absorb by watching other people play your game because they're new to it. They're distanced away from it. If you could go back in time before you made your game and play it, then that would be absolutely key.
Yeah.
But until we can invent time travel, that's not possible. That would be the ideal thing, though, is go back in time before you were close to your game and play your game and see what mistakes and everything is in it, and then fix them, kind of thing, in the future or present, depending on if you're in the past or present at that time, to which one it would be.
Yep.
And you can't tell that I'm writing a game that's about time travel right now.
But you don't play video games.
No. I've never played a video game in my life.
What's a platformer? Or a roguelike?
A platformer is when you go into the kitchen and you sit down with a pottery wheel and a piece of clay kind of thing, and you have Patrick Swayze behind you, and
nice.
you form these plates. That's what a platformer is.
Does that song My Love play in the background while you're doing it? There we go.
Yes, it does.
And there's another point about this argument that I hear from some developers that I also want to bring up here. That there are developers who will say you need to look outside of video games for inspiration. And that is certainly true to an extent. But you still need to be able to play and appreciate these games. And some of the more creative games we've seen have come from developers who aren't necessarily versed in the genre or known for that genre, but they do the research, they do the work, and they make their own unique take on it. And that's actually a really good segue/advertisement to my book on roguelike design. That so many roguelikes and action roguelikes and roguelites and all the other variants we can think of over the last 10 years came from studios and developers who weren't necessarily known for roguelikes. They studied the genre, they were fans of it, but they brought their own unique elements to it. Victor Vrand being another really good example. Victor Vrand is an action RPG made by a developer known for city builders. And they made a very unique take on it. Was it the best version of an ARPG? Debatably no. But as we've said earlier, it was different enough that you can look at Victor Vrand, say that 10 times fast, and say, yeah, this is not like Diablo. It's not like Grim Dawn or Path of Exile. And we've talked again about Slay the Spire, Monster Train. These are games from developers who their company didn't grow making classically trained traditional roguelikes. But they studied those designs. They looked at them to figure out what worked and what didn't work, and they integrate that into their thought process.
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily need to, be, like on like a specific genre forever kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can make good games of all kinds if you know game design kind of
Yeah.
thing. But you probably don't want to make all kinds. You probably want to, like I talked about earlier in earlier cast, stick to either, like thinking games or quick reaction games kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
or somewhere in that yellow area in between kind of thing. You want to, probably stay to one side or the other because the fact is, if it's a thinking game, more than likely, if you make all thinking game, more than likely your fan base is going to translate between them. It's not that you can't make action games; it's that your audience might hate you if you do, and if they don't hate you, then you're probably not going to get very good sales, at least, unless you build up another audience on the Twitch-based
Yeah.
action side.
And we had that conversation, I think, maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago about companies like Clay Entertainment, who their portfolio is very wide in terms of the games they like to make. But they do keep to, again, like one of those tracks. And,
Well, all their games are survival games.
well, not Invisible Ink, that was more of a stealth game. Or Mark of the Ninja. But they, as you said, like, when you understand design at that high of a level, it affords you kind of the opportunity to work on different genres and do different designs. But you have to treat, again, each genre and each new game system as kind of starting from zero. Like we said, just because you make a really good city builder doesn't mean you can turn right around and make the next Dark Souls. Or the next Dark Souls making the next CRPG. And you have to be able to study these games. And this is again goes back to kind of classic Blizzard. That Blizzard in their heyday was one of the best developers at iterating on an idea. Not making a new idea, but being able to study a game and figure out the best parts to take and make their own game out of.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at me for example. Like, my team's last game was a tactical
Mm-hmm.
RPG. Is my new game a tactical RPG? No, it's a
Mm-hmm.
CCG.
Yeah.
And the thing that really ties them together is they're both tactical. In how you move, how you place things. They're both thinking games where you think about your moves before you make them and everything. And they're both turn based kind of thing. They have a lot of things in common between each other, but they are completely different genres at the same time. Of course, that being said, is there have been CCGs or CCG like games inside of RPGs kind of thing, like
Mm-hmm.
Triple Triad. Triple Triad was a mini game inside
Mm-hmm.
of Final Fantasy VIII, and that was our inspiration for our current game, the maybe future word of the day,
Mm-hmm.
Neon Continuum.
Yeah. So your next game after that is going to be your take on Doom Eternal, right?
No, not unless it's some kind of turn-based something. Thinking, unless I can make, come up with something like that. Actually, the plans for the next one, and I don't know if it will happen this way, but the plans at the moment that are always subject to change,
Mm-hmm.
very highly subject to change, mind you, is the Chromasia remake, the word of the day, the
Mm-hmm.
actual word of the day, Chromasia. You know, because I want to do a remake of it because all those notes and everything that I took that Josh had, I have a list, and it's a long list. It's about like I could it's on a notepad file, and I can take it and scroll down like 20 times before I get down to the bottom of it, and
Yeah.
and those are the things I want to implement into it. It's going to for those few people who actually played it, it's going to feel like a totally different game, but totally the same game at the same time. It'll probably be more different than your average sequel kind of thing. It'll probably be more different than your unaverage sequels kind of thing.
I mean, if you look at something like Slain, if you remember that 2D kind of metal action game, that the first version of that game did not do well at all. And the developer, I think, spent several years, taking all the fixes, taking all the complaints and criticisms, and re-released that as Slain Back from Hell. And that did a lot better for him. But, and again, like the whole topic about re-releasing and trying to have a second chance of the game, that's another discussion of itself. Mm-hmm. But the point is that you want, as we've said before, you want to mitigate as much risk as you can when you're designing a game. Video game development is very risky, as I'm sure Shark is well aware of, and I'm sure any of the developers watching this right now are too.
What are you talking about? You just make a game, put it out there, and you succeed, right?
And don't play any games, and you'll be a millionaire.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can be the next PewDiePie by just, sitting at home. You ain't even got to make YouTube videos. You just sit at home and you'll be the next PewDiePie.
There we go.
You don't got to make videos. You ain't got to sign up a YouTube account. You ain't got to do none of that. Just sit at home. You'll be the next PewDiePie. It's easy as that.
Nice. There we go. And again, for these developers, like you have to be able to make things as simple as possible for you, make things as easy as possible. And again, I'm using easy with a lot of air quotes here, because we've seen amazing games fail, just as we've seen not so amazing games sell like gangbusters. And there's definitely another topic. This is probably, we may have to add this to the list, or maybe we'll do this for next week or sometime, about the fact that simple games, or simple from the outside games, aren't that simple to design. And again, to make a game successful like this, you have to hedge your bets as many ways as you can. And part of doing that is understanding what does and doesn't work about a certain genre. And I keep harping on this point, but again, it's still a common issue that I see developers make. That they'll design a platformer and it controls worse than games from 20 to 30 years ago. Or they'll make a roguelike and the UI is just terrible to get into. And these issues aren't, mysterious things that take hours of research to figure out. There's stuff you can grasp within 10 minutes of playing a video game if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, I encountered something not too long ago of somebody wanted me to play test their game. And I play tested it, and it was a platformer,
mm-hmm.
and they had like the jumping felt really good and everything, and they the level design was pretty dang good kind of thing. But the issue is it was a precision platformer kind of thing, and it felt like you were always on ice. You would just slightly turn just to try to change directions kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you would walk off of that one block that you were on kind of thing that took you so long to get up to, and then you have to get back up to it and then try it again and again and again, and you keep on falling off just from trying to change directions kind of thing. And he said, well, your character's a raindrop, so it makes sense that it's slippery. Like, yeah, it makes sense, but this is a precision platformer, and you don't want to take that precision away by, having, everything be slippery. Now then, maybe you could, integrate a slight slippery, something that's not really going to make up much of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then at later points, like put in ice obstacles that makes it really slippery kind of thing. And that adds more to your game and everything by just taking what you got now and integrating it there later. And he said that the reason why they liked it that way was because it was harder. I was like, see, the thing is if you take that away, you could then do levels that were harder, and then it would still be harder, still have well-designed levels, and it wouldn't be slippery.
Yeah. And I'm working on a post about kind of how difficulty philosophy has changed and why, as developers, you need to understand that. And as we've said, difficulty does not automatically make a game great. And it seems like we should have hammered that point in by now, but people are still making that mistake. That they think that I'll just design the next getting over it. And, a PewDiePie Markiplier will play my game and I'll become rich.
I mean, difficulty is easy. It's easy to make something difficult. It's hard to make something easy.
Yeah.
And it's even harder to make something that is difficult but fair and good.
Balanced difficulty is incredibly hard to do, despite the name.
And it's even harder and it's just as hard, brother, to make something that's easy and good and well-designed and intuitive.
Oh, yes.
And you shouldn't be aiming for just the difficulty bar because, I mean, just make your controls weird and you got it. It needs nothing but a one-space jump, and just make it where, like, whenever you push the jump button, there's a 25-second delay before you put it, and you have to, figure out at what mark it is where that 25 seconds is going to, take place.
Oh, and
or actually, what you could do to make it even harder than that is make it a RNG 5-second RNG difference. So it's 20 seconds plus a 5-second random RNG on the
jump RNG. There we go.
And make it where, like, all the level, the tiles and everything, they repeat so much that there's no land markers, so that you have no idea where your timing is going to be at on that 20 seconds.
Yeah,
that would be really dang hard.
Oh, and you should
lame and stupid game, but it would be 100% hard kind of thing.
Oh, and to add extra difficulty, you should have the pause button on your keyboard move the character left, and then F2 move your character right.
And Alt F8 for the pause button.
Thanks, Dave, for coming on. I hope for enjoying things. And if you're new, check out our respective Discords in the description down below.
Yeah, one for him and one for me.
Yeah.
As well as, a YouTube channel for me and whatnot. And we do these live every Sunday.
Yep. And we'll probably be wrapping something like the next 10-15 minutes because you have to get going. But again, one of the surefire ways that we see developers not understand design is when they go all in on difficulty. Whether it's because of gameplay, UI, or combination thereof. And as we said earlier, you have to understand the rules before you can break them. And in some cases, difficulty can become a goal. I was watching somebody play that game Fear and Hunger, that very brutally difficult RPG. And that is a game that was explicitly designed to be that difficult. But that is more of an exception than the norm. The same goes for Getting Over It. Despite so many people playing that game, so many YouTubers and streamers raging over it, it's not, or it should not be, the goal of your design.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of design is like a, what do they call it, flash in the pan? It's once one person does it, a lot of other people are going to do it. Like Flappy Bird.
I was just about to say that.
And nobody is going to get anywhere except for the original Flappy Bird, the original Getting Over It. The originals only get there because they were the original.
Yep.
And because, or maybe not even the original, but the original to become popular.
Yes.
Once it becomes popular,
It's
you're
over.
out of luck, kind of thing. The only chance you got at doing something like that and becoming popular is be the first, do something different and original to become that. But that shouldn't be your goal, because I can guarantee you probably about 5 million times out of one, or 1 out of 500,000 times, you're actually going to be the one that becomes popular.
Yeah. And again, we can turn to World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft was not the first MMO, but it was the first one to be at that level of polish that broke through the mainstream. And then guess what happened? Everybody tried to copy World of Warcraft. And very few of those developers survived. And
almost all of them died.
Yeah, and the few that did had to completely change their monetization and game development model. Guess who didn't have to do that? Blizzard. And because they were the one that broke that mold. And again, like, we can use that mold example. Once the mold's been broken, you can't use it. Or use it exactly like that.
Well, you can use it, just only you have to be different.
Yes.
You have to use it and be different. You have to use it and be
original.
Do it in a new way,
yep.
or be better than it in a significant enough way.
And,
or but like when it comes to like just difficulty games that are meant to be frustrating, there was no chance in that, because I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, are you going to be less difficult? Well, then you just ruin your gameplay.
You're going to be more difficult?
Going to be more difficult? Well, you're just the same, just more. It's still the same.
I know. You need to make the Dark Souls of Getting Over It La Mulana edition. There we go. I just did it. There, somebody make that game right now, and you'll be rich.
I don't know what that something was, but you did something.
I did a thing. There we go.
You did a thing.
And again, like, bringing this back to our topic, like we've said, there's a reason why studios like Blizzard worked so well during their height. Because they played these games. I am sure that when they were developing World of Warcraft, those designers were playing EverQuest at that same time.
Mm-hmm.
And
guarantee you, they were playing all of the MMOs.
And when they were making StarCraft, I'm sure they were playing Command and Conquer at that point too, as well as their other game, Warcraft. And you have to be able to grow your understanding of design. And again, we keep kind of going in circles, but it's kind of the point that people are still making this mistake. I want to touch back on Locomolito for a second. With his game, Super Hydora and Curse Castalia, he designed a shoot 'em up game, as well as a take on Ghosts and Goblins, with that kind of committed jumping. Both genres were notoriously difficult back in their heyday, especially Ghosts and Goblins. But he understood, when he was designing those games, how to make things so that casual players and hardcore players can appreciate it. And that takes an expert level understanding of this design. And he could have just literally remade Ghosts and Goblins. Just, brutal difficulty, very unfair, and I'm sure people would have played it. Again, there's always going to be a niche market. But you can get so much more by being able to understand as much about what works as being able to fix what elements didn't work.
And not working doesn't mean it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
It means that it just dragged down the gameplay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we were talking about this on the Discord channel about lives. There should not be any game that makes use of the standard use of a live system, that you run out of lives, the game ends. That was...
Unless it's a single life.
Yeah.
like a roguelike kind of thing.
Yeah. But again, just copying what worked 20, 30 years ago and then stopping there is not how you design a good game.
Yeah, I mean, Lives is a old mechanic that was introduced to artificially make things harder,
Mm-hmm.
and they were known in the arcade because you had to pay 25 cents for every life, and that's how they made their money,
Oh, yes.
is by charging you for those lives kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
with the quarters, and they had to pay for electricity and everything else to keep that game running kind of thing, not to mention the development kind of thing and the machine and everything else. So they needed you to spend a lot of quarters, because it's going to take a lot of quarters to pay off what a $1,900 machine, and then the development that went in behind the machine, and
Mm-hmm.
the game itself, and then the electricity that the store has to pay for to keep that machine
Mm-hmm.
on 24/7 for you know 8, 12, 16 hours a day for months,
Yeah.
years, like they need you to pump in a lot of quarters in there.
And again, it worked back in 1985 to like the early to mid 90s. But there's a very big reason why the arcade industry crashed again at the end of the decade. Because game design moved on and moved away from that.
Hmm.
And the people who kept trying to make that work, they failed.
I think where the arcades shine the best were in like physical games like skee ball and stuff like that, air hockey, and in like the more social games like beat 'em ups,
Oh,
where you had
yes.
4 players right there at the joystick kind of thing, and
Or 6 if you played the X-Men game.
yeah, that is truly the beat 'em up experience right there.
Yeah.
The arcade machine, and I desperately want several beat 'em up arcade machines in my house.
Oh, yes.
Of course, first thing I gotta do is get a house.
Yeah. I mean, with like those kinds of games, like the it eventually got to a point where it wasn't just a quarter you had to pay for a life, and it got to like $2 to $3 for a life, and that was kind of like when we were like, yeah, this is not working anymore.
Yeah, I remember the racing games where they had the seat and everything that you sit
Mm-hmm.
in. For one play you'd have to stick in 3 quarters, and it's like, and then
I
you
love
get
when
to
you're like
play
fumbling through your pocket of 5 quarters.
you only got to play for like 60, 70, 80 seconds for like nearly $1.
Oh, yes.
I mean, compare that to now where you can get an entire indie game for like $15 kind of thing. It's like,
Or mobile games where are free to play,
yeah,
or free to start, I should say.
yeah, there you go.
All right, but I do need to get going. I think this was a really great conversation. So, I guess for my final point, game development and game design is not a vacuum kind of profession. You can't just design, you can't just be stuck in your head 8 to 10 hours a day and make the best video game possible. You not only need to do research, but you need to be able to show people what this idea is. And again, playtesting, onboarding, that's another 5 topics right there. And
Hmm.
you have to be able, and this is why, whenever you're thinking about designing a game, you need to play examples of it. Even if you are designing a completely different take and you're going to pull elements from other genres, you still have to play them. If you want to add roguelike elements to your game, you should play a roguelike. If you want to add racing elements, add that. And or you play that. Because if you don't do that, you're going to end up with a game that it's going to be a racing game but worse, or a roguelike game but
But more,
worse. And most developers cannot afford to fail and then learn that lesson. And
well, whether you can afford to or not, you better be able to afford to, without doing that. You should definitely prevent those mistakes and still be able to afford to fail, because the fact is, you're going to fail. So you better be ready for it.
Yeah. And again, it's just about, I think we've used like this, the analogy, it's like playing Russian roulette. And the better that you do during the pre-planning and during the development, it's taking bullets out of that gun. If you try to make a game of a genre you've never played, do no marketing, do no playtesting, it's like playing Russian roulette with maybe 6 bullets in the chamber.
6 out of 6 bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you need to, so at that point you have no choice but to, take a bullet to the head.
Mm-hmm.
Where, you need to play the game and, do all this. Do all the risk mitigating. I can't speak. Risk mitigation to try to prevent all these bad things that are going to come to your game. And even if you do all that right, guess what? You didn't take all 6 bullets out of that chamber. You took 3 bullets out of that 6-shooter, chamber, and you still have like a 50% chance of getting a bullet in your head. But 50% chance of getting a bullet in your head is a whole lot better than 100%. Or, 5 out of 6 or 4 out of 6.
Yep.
Kind of thing.
And unfortunately, like we said, you can do everything right and you can still fail. Just as sometimes you can do everything wrong. And maybe just because somebody, a big name YouTuber, covered your game, or you got incredibly lucky, it may succeed.
Yeah, but there's instances where big name YouTubers covered their games. They covered Tim's game, and Matt Pat from Game Theory covered his game. And not only did he not wildly succeed after that, he didn't even get anything that he could even tell was even one purchase from the game.
Yeah.
Because it all blended in with his normal sales, and it didn't look any different than anything else. It wasn't even a tiny spike.
Yeah.
Like the only thing that could, explain it is either like he, was going to tremendously spike down on that day, and then he, then that YouTuber brought it up to, even ground kind of thing, or the YouTuber contributed nothing into people buying his game kind of thing. It's one or the other kind of thing. So, even getting covered by a big name YouTuber does not mean success by any means. And on another note from that is like, you can, oh great, I lost.
That's how you know we've gone on too long. We start forgetting.
Well, you lost it from the very beginning.
I guess while Shark is thinking, and again, there are always going to be exceptions to these rules. But at the end of the day, it's always about mitigating these risks. And
now I remember.
Okay.
Now I remember. So, not only should you be, working with risk management and taking bullets out of the chamber, you should also be worried about, what if you get one of the bullets that are going to hit your head kind of thing. Get you a bulletproof helmet that even if the game horribly fails, the worse than the worst case scenario, you still got the ability and money and everything you need to continue and make another game after this one. So that when this one, gets a bullet to the head, you have another one that you can play Russian roulette with afterwards.
Yep.
Bulletproof helmet or something.
All right. Yep. And again, this can easily segue into 5 or 6 other topics. But
no, we could never do that.
No. But I think with that, we are going to wrap things up for this week. So I'd like to thank everybody new as well as our returning fans for watching. As always, you'll find links to our respective Twitters. My Twitter is @GWFight. Wow, my mouth is dying. @GWBicer. And you'll find links to Shark's Twitter, Discord, and YouTube channel in the description down below.
Well, how could they find your YouTube channel, though?
I don't know. It's a mystery. Like that, it's a first-person mystery.
Yeah. You never know how you could, all the things you can do in first person that may seem mundane that were really different.
Yes. But
for those who tuning in, towards the end, probably don't get that joke. That was towards the beginning of the cast.
Check out the Weird Games segment. There will be a timestamp for it down there, and you'll figure out the joke in the future. But as always, be sure to join our respective Discords. If you want to continue this discussion, I'll be updating the topic of the week on the Game Wisdom Discord later today. And we'll be back next Sunday around 4:30 EDT for our next stream. So come back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where is in the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.